Welcome everyone to the second episode, and we are here with Nenad. He's currently in Bangkok, and he's originally a French, if I'm not wrong, and he's an amazing world class coach, and he also happens to be a hypnotherapist. Which that's something we want to go into, and he helps people deal with insecurities and improve their self image so that they can achieve more in their life, become more happier. And so we want to start off with your own journey, right?
Mm.
As you know, as someone who's doing this kind of work, how did your journey begin? And I want you to take you into your childhood. What was your childhood like, and where were you born, and how was your life like a child?
Wow, long journey back. So I grew up in France, born and raised in France, northeast of France, and I think life was very, very different. Back then there was no smartphones, there was no internet, there was no all of these things. So for me, it was a lot of playing football with my brothers, my cousins, friends. I was from 6 years old. I was already in a football club.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So
That's cool.
we were spending basically a lot of time outside, bicycling, football, and hanging with people around, like kids around the little town. I'm born in a very small city, so that was how I was growing up. I was more of branded as a shy kid, introverted compared to my brother, who is much more
Cool.
loud, extroverted type. Like we were kind of very opposite when we were growing up. He's 2 years older than me,
Mm.
and in terms of personality, it's really night and day,
I,
right?
yeah.
And so, because of that contrast, I think people would just label you different than the brother, or less sociable maybe than the brother, or shy, or whatever, right? And so that was a lot of me growing up was a lot of being shy, a little bit maybe reserved, and I think that was one of the main pattern I had, growing up. Um, the shyness, the timidity toward life started to become very much an identity,
Mm.
and kind of holding me back to be confident or have strong self-esteem in terms of doing certain things and having us, this type of social life that I wanted. Because when you're teenagers,
Yeah.
you're confused. A lot of things are happening very fast, and the only thing that we really care was your friends, or having friends, or having that the statue, being the cool guy or whatever, right? And because of that shyness, timidity, or whatever, like when I was 16, 17, it was kind of really tough. I was starting to play video game,
Mm.
and that wasn't really a good balance, but it was, I think, my introverted side, but it was also a good way to hide, right? So that made it very complicated in terms of becoming,
Mm.
um, social in that age. And then I studied. I was at some form of interest by the human mind and so on, but at the time I didn't really understand, didn't really care, didn't really, it wasn't something my parents could teach me either, right? Because it wasn't something. I mean, back then, internet wasn't what it is today. Today, you go on Instagram, you go on YouTube, something, you Google whatever you want, and you have basically 5,000 hours of content to watch, right?
Yep.
So it's the information today is readily available here. Back in the days, it wasn't very much like that. So it wasn't until my early 20s when I moved to Australia. I decided to leave France when I was 20
Mm.
to go on a working holiday for 2 years down in Australia.
Mm.
And one of the main reasons I did that is because I was in that place where I was really fed up with my studies, with everything. I was just in a place where life wasn't exciting. It was, you wake up on Monday and you feel like shit. It's 5 days before the weekend,
Exactly.
and the weekend was just playing sports or being just active, and that was it. I wasn't fulfilled, and randomly I had a intuitive moment of being like, why not go to Australia? Why not go and learn English, kind of thing? And so I that's what I did. I quit everything, sold my car, sold got leveraged the money and everything, and got my visa, got my plane ticket,
Yeah.
and then I broke my arm which was a very decisive moment, I think, in my life,
Mm.
because my logic, my fearful mind was telling me maybe it's a sign.
Yeah, don't go.
you know,
Yeah.
it's a sign. You're not meant to fucking go. Blah blah blah. All these fearful thoughts, right?
Yeah.
But deep down, I felt like I have to go. If I delay for 5 weeks until it heals or whatever, I'm not gonna. I felt like I'm not gonna go. So I just went with a broken arm and a big backpack and pretty much zero English, like very very basic English. And I think that was a gift because by default I didn't have anything to do. I couldn't really work, right? So I enrolled in a part-time school to learn English, what a concept, and worked a lot, helped me a lot. And then that's when I started to, settle in Australia, work and travel, and do a lot of farming job. And
Wow.
one day I landed in a strawberry farm,
Wow.
and I met a very cool family. It was a family-run farm, and they were very much into personal development. They
Mm.
were very much, Tony Robbins, Tia Becker. They were going to all those NLP things already back then,
Mm.
and they took a liking in me. But we had a lot of enlightening conversations.
Yeah.
They were telling me things they were learning. They were giving me books. They were really planting the idea that you can create whatever you want in life.
Mm.
And I had this profound paradigm shift at
Mm.
that moment, which I think this was really much. You asked me how did I get where I am. I think that was a tremendous stepping stone. If it wasn't for that, I think life would have been very, very different. And
Yeah.
one of the first books they gave me was Rich Dad Poor Dad and Awaken the Giant Within, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that just to give you a bit of an idea.
Mm.
And reading that and reading those, which really gave me like a wow moment. I mentioned I always had this curiosity about the human mind,
Mm.
and that's when it just, that little flame just, became a huge fire kind of thing. And my journey to personal development started. So at first, it was just basically for myself, understanding myself, my confidence, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Because I was 21, 22, and I was just didn't know what to do. I had a very good time in Australia, but the farming job and all of that was just to raise money so I can travel and I can explore with my van. I had a van, right? I was living off my van. It was really cool.
Yeah.
And I decided to become a scuba diving instructor.
Mm.
So that was a very interesting experience, beautiful lifestyle, told me a lot. And was able to apply that NLP, apply that coaching things into the people who were coming for the diving. Because a lot of them have some form of anxiety, nervousness, or what if I panic? What if especially with the mask? If you've been diving, people sometimes struggle with the mask.
Mm.
So applying those things, helping them,
Yeah.
relax, be motivated, happy, have a good time,
Yeah.
is when I realized basically that wow, it could be cool, it could be nice to do that and help people and apply, basically all those things I'm doing, right?
Mm.
And to become a coach.
Yeah.
And that was the time when I was, going into NLP and becoming an NLP trainer and starting hypnotherapy. And I think all of those things can happen at the same time, this realization.
Mm.
And back in 2000, at the end of 2015, I decided to make the jump. I pretty much sold all my diving gear, all my stuff, and I went fully into becoming a coach and an NLP trainer.
Yeah.
And I never looked back, right? So that's how I started 6 years ago, this coaching journey. And then, it was a roller coaster also, for sure. So that's a little bit of a short version of a little bit of my life, right?
Yeah. That was, I was just, you took us to so many places, and the whole timeline of of different events, and different significant events that happen in your life, and it made a really big impact to take new decisions and new ways of thinking, and new ways of acting in this world.
Yeah.
So I really want to break this the whole journey, and and bring and pick up insights from that, so that our viewers, our listeners can get a lot from this. So from what I heard, and because this is the topic for us today is about dealing with our insecurities so that we can crush our
Yes.
goals. And you started off by talking about how you were different from your brother and how you were labeled as the shy kid, and it kind of started to consciously become a part of your identity and how it was holding you back. So
Yes.
let's talk about why it is important to deal with our insecurities, deal with things that we might not be aware of most of the times.
Mm. Well, I think the question is the answer is self-evident. I think I believe everybody has insecurities in different form, different nature, different intensity, different places. But nobody likes that moment where you feel afraid, whether you're afraid to go to the gym because you feel like your body is not in the best shape and you're afraid to be judged by
Yeah.
people that appear fit, right? Or you're afraid to go on a podcast because you figure out, what if I don't know what to say, So
Yeah.
there's so many ways those little insecurities hold us back. And I think that's the main answer here, is that it holds us back from possibilities, from opportunities, from maybe going into things or making certain type of decisions
Mm.
that could advance our life, that could bring more experiences, that could bring more prosperity, joy, whatever it is. And unfortunately, those insecurities that we uh, pick up along the way creates also a lot of inhibition for our personality. So we become maybe pleasers, or we become,
Yeah.
we create that external image of ourselves where we portray ourselves in a way that maybe is not really who we are.
Yeah.
And that is because we want to be liked, we want to be loved, we want to be respected, we want that statue. We have a strong desire to be important and significant. We all do. Unfortunately, everything that we perceive as a weakness,
Mhm.
everything that we perceive as a crack in that shiny armor that we have, is something that we want to completely either deny, push away, or hide. Because I don't want other people to know I'm struggling in my life right now. I
Yeah.
don't want other people to know, oh, I gained some freaking weight, or I'm single because I'm whatever, right? So everything that we consider as a weakness
Yeah.
is creates a lot of fear, a lot of danger to our ego, and
Mm.
we get threatened by that, and we hide it.
Yes.
We hide it because sometimes we don't even know what to do with it. And unfortunately, those inhibitions really prevent us from usually getting the thing that we actually desire.
Mm.
And so we perpetuate situations, patterns, and order relationship that maybe are, not working out for us.
Mm.
So releasing some of those insecurity, going through the process, is actually enabling me more life, more opportunity, more of what you want, right?
Yeah. And as you were saying this, I recently had this realization that whatever stays hidden has starts to have more power over us. Because it's on the back of our mind. It's just there on the background, and it just keeps getting stronger and
Mhm.
the more we ignore it, the more we find ways to distract ourselves by being in a day job, um, or perhaps just looking for entertainment, or we have all these kinds of things that just
Mm.
hit us with the dopamine, and in and eventually after all of that we're not in a good place, even after we do have done all of this, even after we've taken all of the pleasure. So like you said, it's so important to bring all of that into the light, bring all and acknowledge that they are present and that they are here for a lesson, for a learning. And
Mm.
so as we are talking about that, so let's talk about like what just just imagine someone who's listening is at that place, right?
Yes.
Someone who's afraid to go after their goals, or they're afraid to show up. And so what is the first step that someone like that can take to move towards where they want to?
I think the first step is to really define what you want.
Mhm.
Um, in my experience,
Yeah.
I see that most people have a vague idea of what they want. It's very easy to say, I want more money. I
Yeah.
want more success. I want to be happier.
Yeah.
The vagueness of that statement will keep you confused as to what that even means to you success, what that even means to you joy, what even means to you a loving relationship kind of thing. So to really be to create a goal, I think I like this metaphor that the mind is like a GPS, and you need a very clear destination. You need a very clear drive in terms of, okay, this is what I would like to do. This is the kind of life I would like to create, the kind of person I would like to be. And one creative exercise that can help people do that is to just take a piece of paper, right?
Yeah.
And to imagine that you're 1 year from now into the future. So you could say, okay, November 2022,
Yeah.
right? And you wake up and you had your best year ever.
Yeah.
What does that look like? When you wake up, where are you? Who's around? What did you do? How do you feel? How do you contribute? What kind of person are you? What kind of social interaction are you? How do you behave differently? How do you see yourself differently? And this is not a matter of like being realistic. This is just a matter of flowing and just getting an idea of what would that look like, that the most amazing year for you. Because when you start to create that a little bit of flow exercise, you might be surprised by what actually comes on the paper.
Exactly.
You might be surprised. You might be like, wow, I never considered that. That would be really cool. That would be very nice. And it also creates that excitement, being like, wow, that would be really, really cool. So I think this is what I would give the first step. Because once you have an idea, a vision, a compelling future, now you can start to take steps toward that place. The second thing would be to be very honest about where you are now. Where are you now? And if this is the best way to do that is to look at your results.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because your result will not lie. And you can take personal responsibility in every area of your life. Physically, where's your health?
Yeah.
And this is not a way of being judgmental. Oh my God, you're fucking fat, whatever. This is not about being judgmental. This is about, this is my weight. This is where I'm at. This is my physique. This is my, condition at the moment.
Yeah.
And this is my work. This is my level of fulfillment of work. This is my finance. This is my relationship fulfillment. This is that, and I'm getting a true understanding of, where I am in my life, and, taking an objective look at how happy I am in my life, right? This will show you patterns.
Yeah.
You are where you are because the person you are.
Wow. Yeah.
And when you start to reflect and taking responsibility for where you are in your life, you start to see patterns.
Yeah. Definitely.
And you start to see why you're doing certain things, why you still hang back here, what are you insecure, or what are you, not doing, or why are you not doing certain things that you should be doing, that you're not doing. Yeah. And I'm sharing all of this because 80%, 90% of the time, the answer will come down to what I call the self-image, how people see themselves.
Yeah.
And that is because we have a strong need to remain consistent with who we are, the identity where we are. And that identity, just like I shared a little bit earlier with the I'm shy thing, the I'm shy story, when you listen to people, they will tell you why they are what they are, why they cannot do what they cannot do, why they have these limitations.
Yeah.
And they will give so much justification.
Yes.
Because they're so emotionally invested in that thought, in that story, in that label for so long that it became just who they are. And most of the time it's just through past experiences, through our upbringing, we just create that image of ourselves unconsciously, right? We never know that, oh, I could change that. We feel like it's fixed in stone or something like that. But in reality, we are both, the sculpture and the sculpture. So we can carve ourselves in a very different ways. But if we're not aware of the way we see ourselves right now, whether we have like a lot of self-judgment, whether we're judging, if we hold on to a lot of resentment, a lot of fear, if we feel shy and confident, if we feel too out, it comes out in many ways from different people. And then it's about you asking yourself, well, is this version of me, is this really serving me? Is this really aligned with what I wrote on that paper? And very often what you see is two very different realities.
Exactly.
Yeah. So even though an example would be, okay, I want to lose weight, I think, which is very common.
Yeah.
I want to lose weight, I want to be fitter, whatever, but, right?
Yeah.
I try, I go on diet, whatever, and my weight is like a yo-yo.
Yeah.
If subconsciously
Mm.
you keep relating to yourself as an overweight person, or as a person that struggle to lose weight, or as a person that for whatever reason, will never be
Yeah.
in that fit image, you will not get there. You'll find excuses, you'll find sabotage yourself, you'll give up, you won't have the motivation or whatever in order to not get there, because subconsciously you have a need to remain, consistent with, I'm overweight, this is my body, this is me, right? Or you just, it's the classic example of the person who believes maybe they're ugly or not attractive or not lovable in a certain reason. This type of belief creates a wide variety of habits, behavior, emotional and thought patterns. How does a person who feels they're not attractive treat themselves?
Exactly.
How do they carry themselves? How do they interact with other people or the opposite sex?
Exactly.
How is their level of self-worth and confidence, right? So as you can see, our core beliefs not only affect us in one area, but the patterns are everywhere.
Yeah. Yes.
One of my big beliefs in the past was I'm too tall.
Oh, wow.
I'm 1 meter 96, which for a lot of people, especially in Asia, it's tall, right?
Yeah.
And because I was growing up very fast, faster than other people, a lot of my friends, when I was a teenager, was telling me, "Why are you so tall? Why are you so tall?" And I just took it
Yeah.
personally, as in like it's negative. Why is it negative? Why am I too tall? And so it just reinforced my timidity, my lack of confidence, and trying to keep myself short, trying to hide myself, not being the center of the attention. So you can see how one belief can keep you away or keep you not doing certain things.
Yeah.
So those would be the 3 steps.
Yeah.
Defining what you want, looking at your result now, and then having a look at why you're not going, why you're not crossing that gap.
Yeah. Yeah. I recently I made a post about so I told in my post I told I live in this world, right? And so my intention was to help them find out where I live. So I started with I live in this world, and especially in Asia, specifically in Asia, and even in Asia, there's a country called Nepal. And then I just kept chunking down, and the whole point of my the video was uh, just to come to my house, right? I have to be so specific about and detail about where it is. I can't tell you I live in this world and you're not going to find me. You're not going to find me if I live in this world. If you ask me, send me your location, and I said I live in planet Earth, you're not going to find me. So it was just a metaphorical expression of what you were saying as well. And so in that video, I got a response from someone, and the question that they asked was, what if we have no awareness of our goals, right? And what it was doing for that person was that they start to feel they do not feel belonged, right, to where they are. And this, I think, this is again this where the step which you were talking about, what's happening around you, like the results you are. I think that's what she was talking about, like not feeling belonged to the job you are in, the family, even the society, the friends that you hang around with every day. um so what in that case, what can a person do? Like you said, like the first step is figuring out what I really want. But people have questions like, what if I have no awareness of that? So, and even in your journey, what I heard was a lot of exploring. You decided to get out of France and then go to Australia, do all this farming work, and then you got a chance to meet these wonderful people. So let's give light on this aspect also.
Yeah, like you said, sometimes the clarity is lacking, or the unconsciousness is too strong. But we even then, I knew I had a general idea of what I wanted. I wanted to, back then, of course, my perception of life and desires and goals were very different.
Yeah.
I wanted to travel more. I wanted to see Australia more. I wanted to have more experiences. I wanted to, before I was a scuba diving instructor, I wanted to experience diving.
Yeah.
So I followed some of those things.
Mm.
I was interested in personal development. So I bought books, I read books, I listened, I went to courses and seminars, and I followed certain inspirations, certain things, certain desires I had, even though I had no idea where it would lead me.
Exactly. Exactly.
Even though I didn't have an idea of the end goal yet.
Mm.
But I had interests, I had curiosity, I had things that were, just calling me a little bit.
Yeah.
And so that could be maybe the first step, when somebody feel like they don't belong,
Mm.
you know, it's often because they're very disconnected with themselves.
Mm.
So then it will be to find out, where do you feel connected?
Exactly.
Usually it will be like with animals.
Yeah.
People who are very lonely tend to connect a lot with the dogs, or people who are heartbroken,
Mm.
they usually get a cat or a dog because they will never leave them, kind of thing,
Yeah.
right? So it's just about exploring. It's not about figure out everything
Exactly.
today, now, like I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if the only thing right now you feel like doing is go and play volleyball,
Yeah.
then go and try play volleyball.
Exactly. Exactly.
You might meet people, you might get a realization, you might learn something, you might get inspired, you might fall in love with volleyball.
Yeah.
You never know. If in doubt, try something new,
Yeah.
experience something else, put yourself in new situations,
Yeah.
and often the next step gets revealed.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly.
So keeping it simple
Mm.
and not worrying too much about trying to figure out every single step along the way
Absolutely.
is definitely a good advice, I think.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And after I got that question, I also and I wanted to give a very good answer and something that could help that person. So, I also kind of created this three-step process, and in that process, first process was not fighting with that feeling, right? Not fighting with like I don't know anything. I don't have an idea, and we get in this pattern of finding people who we can blame because of them we are in that place and we get into that pattern. So when we fight, it's not a good place to be. So when we start
Mm,
accepting and acknowledging, then it's a start, and in that process it helps us to just rant everything we're feeling, all the negative emotions that we're feeling, and just non-judgmentally, just free spirited writing. That kind of just sets us up, or maybe we can jump around and just do some body movements so that it just kind of opens up new possibilities, and
mm,
then just have an idea like what kind of things do I connect to, what are my interests, and that kind of just starts to process. um so yeah, that's I think that is a good way to begin. And it can be an excuse, of, like I just don't know what I want, and so that's why I do whatever everyone else wants me to do, and that is really really relevant. I'm sure it's kind of relevant in Europe, in America, in those places also, but in Nepal, in Asia especially. But I cannot generalize, but in Nepal, we have this we are grown up in the family. We are very heavily influenced by our parents, even till our 20s, 25s, 30s. So so that for us, it takes so much to get out of that, all of that other bonds that have
mm,
had opinions on us. So yeah, for me also, what happened was actually, my journey kind of started from meditation. Actually, I had no idea about NLP and other things. So through meditation, I was actually able to understand that I have never been able to live my life. I've never even thought about what I want. All my life, everyone's told me what you should go for. So that was a big realization for me as well. Um, so let's move towards. Why don't you share, if it's possible, share with us your, a journey with someone, a client perhaps, or someone who touched your life and you touched theirs. Um, uh, if you can share that, please do. If there's any single, kind of that.
Gosh, there's many stories. Um, I think maybe the earliest one that really was like a moment for me
Mm,
was when I was still learning about hypnotherapy and NLP and all of that. And I was just getting started as a coach, but I was observing those trainers, what they were teaching, and they were doing a lot of demonstration in those courses. And I was in a hypnotherapy course actually, and it was basically this moment when I realized just how amazing the mind is. And I think witnessing that intervention there, like, really was like a wow. So this is that's kind of really what's possible. So it left me a really strong impression about like a really strong paradigm shift in just how fast people can release, but also how emotion can materialize in the body and in people's life. And I had this strong moment there, and I think that's why it's a good story. So it was basically an older guy. I think he was in his 60s, and the when I saw him come in the class, he was basically working with a bit of like a stick, right? And he was like very shoulder down, but very tense.
yeah.
You could feel he was very tense, like, but struggling to walk, just like as if he had some form of physical challenge.
Mm,
And my guess that it was around early 60s, late 50s, something like that. And he was basically volunteering to go on this intervention, and he was saying, look, I would like to try this process because I have a lot of back pain.
yeah.
And he was like, can that help me?
Mm,
Because I've been, for as long as I can remember, I had a lot of back pain, and medicine things don't work and whatever, and he just doesn't know what to do anymore. Okay, so obviously that was a pretty um, impactful thing for him, because it was, even the way he was working, there was constant pain. So imagine that. It's just crazy. So basically they go into that session, and the guy got regressed when he was younger, right? And he had a fight with his brother. I think he was 8, his brother was a bit older, so he was bigger and like stronger. And they were fighting, and he was, of course, losing because there was a difference of strength.
yeah.
And so he was kind of like bullied a little bit in that moment, that experience, as brothers can do sometimes. And he was so angry, so mad, that he kind of left. He ran away, and he was like, he went like close to a little river or something, and he was just so angry that he took a piece of wood and started smashing a bush. Right, so he was just expressing all his anger and like letting his anger become rage, basically.
Mm,
And that is the moment where this anger, this pattern of anger, got created in his life.
mm,
That rage, that strong anger that he was always internalizing, and
mm,
almost like becoming a victim, blaming, strong, a lot of blaming. And over the years, what happened is that accumulation of rage hardened his whole body, like created knots in his body, and just that's what created all that the physical shift and that pain and all of that, right? So the process basically was about forgiving, the brother, what was happening, learning from that, and just releasing all that
mm,
massive amount of anger
mm,
that he had within. And the most amazing thing happened, because when he was going through that process, you could see his body just like transforming or breaking, or like tears going down, and like it was just amazing to witness. And it was just like watching the best thing on TV. I was like, wow, what is happening?
yes,
And
yes.
it had such a profound impact on me, because when he came back, that information was like in the afternoon, late in the afternoon. And the next day morning, when he came back, he was a different man.
Mm.
He was he didn't have a can anymore to walk. He
Wow,
had the
wow,
biggest freaking smile.
wow.
He was taller because his back was freaking opened. And he was, I think even he was like, I don't know what's happening, but this is so cool because I don't have any freaking pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like everybody was just like, whoa. I mean, in terms of like that intervention maybe took 40, 45 minutes, something like that. But to see that left me a strong impact to just realize just how much our past can affect us,
Yeah.
our present, but also where we're going into the future.
True.
And I've been privileged to see a lot of people over the years. I've worked with over 300 people
That's
to
awesome.
do amazing. I mean, I had another client who couldn't make decisions, was always procrastinating, was very angry as well, and was always waiting to the last moment to make decisions.
Mm.
All because he had a little bit of a fearful moment when he was very young, when he was crossing a road.
Wow.
And that moment where he was starting to cross, a car came and like this beep beep, right? So there was no accident, nothing, but it left him open in a state of fear
Yeah.
about deciding, should I go, should I stay, should I go, should I stay? And that pattern became how he was making decisions. Always like, should I stay, should I do it, should I not do it? And over time it grew.
Mm.
And he was only doing things when he was really like, it's enough time. So of course that was affecting his marriage because they were getting divorced, his job and everything else. So being able to change that, like just transform his whole life.
Mm.
And when you go and you see people overcoming themselves, their past, the limitation about the shyness or the belief about being ugly, about I don't deserve this or whatever, or the heartbreak, right?
Mm.
It's phenomenal how people can just transform, start to do different things, make radical different decisions in their life, and basically,
Mm.
live a brand new life.
Mm.
And every time I'm always inspired when I see people changing, people growing, people how much their life can change in such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And it's a privilege. It's a privilege.
True.
And yeah, so I don't know if that answers your question, but those are maybe two stories.
That answers my question and more.
Okay, oh, that's a good.
um,
Yeah.
just like you said, I've also been able, privileged to witness some of those transformations, and especially during timeline therapy sessions, you,
Yes.
you know, s- those are just mind blowing. The face it starts to shine, and it's just shocking. Like this person completely has a different kind of energy to them. Um,
Yes.
so tell me, let's explore this also. Let's explore like how is that, like, someone who's been holding on to something for 15, 20 years, and then just like that shift that happens. What could be the science behind that? What could be making that happen?
Well, that is a very deep question, right? Energy is stored in the body,
Yeah.
and we keep, store, absorb that energy, pack it up
Yeah.
over so many years because we accumulate it in different ways. Okay, and I think there's a process of readiness that creates awareness, that creates realizing that this is not working for me anymore, and I want to let go of that, but I don't know what to do. I don't know how to let go, and then progressively, I think people become ready to move on. And then it's often, in my experience, what's needed is a form of forgiveness.
Mm.
It's about forgiving the past, it's about forgiving themselves, it's about forgiving others, it's just about that release, that moment where they feel like this is not serving me anymore. It's not serving me anymore. I'm like, I don't need to justify this anymore. I don't need to blame it on other anymore. I just want to freaking move on.
Yeah.
And the reason why it can happen so fast and so much is because, well, when you change that deep subconscious perspective toward an event, toward something, what happens is that energy gets transmuted
Mm.
into something else, something that was very dense, something that was very heavy, something that was very affecting people's energy in a different way. Just get transmuted into something else.
Yeah.
And that's why people get, they feel lighter, or they start crying, or they have that moment or that face thing that you mentioned, because their body responds.
Response.
And all change is just change of consciousness.
Yeah.
It's just change of in a level of consciousness, meaning a state of how they relate to themselves. And it's it's an energetical shift.
Yes. True.
So really, when people change, we use a lot of words and explanation and so on, but it's really the energy that has shifted.
Exactly.
And whatever was constricting the energy because of XYZ is no longer, and now something else can take its place.
Yes. Exactly.
And that's the beauty, because even Einstein was saying, and I really love this quote. He says, "You cannot solve a problem with the same level of consciousness that has created it.
Exactly.
You need a new level of consciousness." So what does that mean for an individual? Meaning that if you stay the same person who you are now,
Yes.
I can guarantee you that in 1 year you'll have exactly similar and more of the same.
Yes.
But if you can start to think bigger or greater about yourself, about your life possibilities, if right now you see the world as an unfair, dangerous, unworthy, and untrusty place, if you start to change that perception into like, life is supporting me, life is guiding me, life is abundant, life has opportunities. I guarantee you that if you start to adopt that belief over time, it's going to completely change the way you interact with life, in the people and everything else.
Yeah.
So, but that means that you have to completely change your perspective.
Yeah.
And when you do start to change things like that, it's amazing what can happen.
So, this is a great insight, because even when we shifting our perspective and releasing that, is also affecting our consciousness.
Yeah.
Right. And so that is something that is that is like a power we have every moment of our lives. And like you said, like you cannot solve a problem in the same level of consciousness. So I also have these great insights early in the morning when I just go out for fun, and then I'm sweating, and then and the meditation is like, okay, oh, this is great content, so everything just keeps flowing. But I've also realized that it's so important to check with yourself all the time, every day, because there's so many things happening, so many people you're meeting, so many things you're seeing, listening, tasting, touching, and you cannot. I mean, it's really challenging to be aware of every single thing, and so many things can just go past, and perhaps you interpret that event in not in a healthy way. So so it's really important to every day to do something about it. Perhaps you write about it and release it, or you do meditation to release it, like something like Ho'oponopono. It's the Hawaiian thing. It's very helpful. So so like it's got to be an everyday thing. It's like like in the case of that old man, he came and that happened. But if he again brings that old pattern back and thinks about the same, it's not gonna be helpful, right? So it's really important to stay consistent and just keep on doing that, and just checking with yourself how you're feeling on a day-to-day basis. Okay, so I feel like this is going so well. I feel that the flow is so natural with you. I'm sure when people hear this, they're going to get really good stuff out of this. Okay, so share with us a little more about some major challenges you faced, in becoming who you are, and of course, and where of course, about the future also. Where do you feel your everything is moving towards for you right now?
Being self-employed is pretty much a spiritual journey.
True.
It is you're confronted with yourself all the time, and you have to deal with a lot of your fears, because they all get right in your face.
Absolutely.
So you have to deal with a lot of things. That's why earlier on I said this journey was very much of a roller coaster.
Mm.
I had a lot of challenges when I was starting this business. There was the money thing, there was where to get clients, there was the feeling like,
Yeah.
what if I cannot help people? What if I, charge them and they don't get the result and they're not happy? And you get all these fears, you get all these things, you get this fear of being seen,
Mm.
of putting your message out there, of putting your photo out there, of selling yourself out there. There was all of that was huge at the beginning. Asking for the money was huge. So I had a lot of those fears to really deal with, to really embody a different self-image over time. But also, I think most importantly, it was also staying committed.
Mm.
I think even when it was very tough, even when I had to be very creative or whatnot, or in terms of money, things were not working out, and I was really ready to give up, kind of thing. I kind of just continued a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And today it worked out. Today it's working out very well. Today I'm very happy, and I'm still growing. And still have other challenges, and there's other things I want to do.
Yeah.
But when you are in this journey, and wherever you are, whether you're a coach, whether you're parents, whether it's always going to be challenges.
Yeah.
If you can face them,
Yeah.
if you can face them, and if you can face your insecurities, it gets easier.
Yeah.
A lot of I think probably the biggest pattern I had to overcome was what I noticed. That's very, very common, especially in the shadow psychology that you see on, shadow work and all these
Yeah.
things that you see on the internet.
Yeah.
People who get lost
Mm.
fixing themselves for years.
Oh man, that's a big one. That's
And I was there. You always feel like, there's always a limiting belief. There's always a negative emotion. There's always something to heal, something to clear,
yeah.
something to meditate on, something to journal, something, always something to fix. And that is probably the biggest shadow that people have to fix by default, is that there's nothing wrong with them.
Yeah.
But if that lingering subconscious self-image that I'm broken, or I need to fix myself, or I need to shadow myself out, kind of thing,
Yeah.
you're gonna always find something to heal, a belief, something. Because what stems your insecurities and your patterns is that root belief of I'm not okay with how I am right now, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was there for a while, and this can often get translated in reading books and wasting time watching videos on YouTube, and you feel like you're learning, you feel like you're growing, but you're really just distracting yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
So that was a big one for me to become aware of.
Yeah.
And I became aware of because of the story of Jesus, basically.
Mm.
When he was healing the blind guy, or when he was healing leper, or when he was helping all those people, he never acknowledged those people as being sick or anything.
Yeah.
And in the Bible, there's something like said, there's cannot quote it word for word, but it's basically about forgiveness. And the woman, I think, is asking for forgiveness. Will God forgive me, and things like that. And I think Jesus just tell her, go now, because you are pretty much already forgiven, for God doesn't judge, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think something along those lines was a big aha moment, because life, God, universe, whatever you want to call it, never judges.
True.
But it's we put that judge, and that we perpetuate the blaming and the judgment on ourselves, which means we perpetuate the pattern.
Mm.
So in quantum physics, to use maybe a more different approach, would be the act of observing is the act of creating. So when you observe yourself as being a certain way, you are perpetuating yourself being that certain way, meaning you'll find more things to meet that particular idea of yourself.
Yeah.
So what Jesus did is that for him to heal that leper of the blind mind, whatever, he had to have so much faith and belief that that person is already perfectly healed,
Yeah.
perfectly, he has perfect eyesight.
Yeah.
And it's that belief
Mm.
that created the miracle,
Mm.
because he only saw what he wanted to manifest.
Yeah. True.
And I think this is probably the biggest learning, and I'm still working on that, because we all get
Yeah.
attached to what we see with our five senses,
Exactly.
but to be able to truly see,
Yeah.
true seeing is through your imagination.
Yeah.
When you can see bigger than what your physical world is showing you, that's when you know you're on a different level of consciousness.
Yeah.
Because today you only see the reflection of your current state of being.
Yeah.
And when you can start to stop and imagine something bigger, even though you cannot touch it, and start to feel connected to that, you now start to create that vision. And all the great leaders are this ability to remain faithful to things, even though the whole world was against or it wasn't working, whether it's Gandhi and all those type of amazing people. They were able to remain so focused, and they had such a conviction in what they wanted, that that's all they saw.
Yeah.
That image in their mind was stronger than maybe the empty wallet.
Yeah.
But as long as you let that empty wallet control the way you think and the way you feel, you remain a victim to the situations that are happening right now. So for me, fixing that pattern, fixing a lot of the things, was to start to envision the life I wanted to create, and to start to become that person ahead of time.
Yeah.
And to really put more belief in terms of, okay, I'm already a world class coach, hypnotherapist. I can help people. I can make a difference in their life, and I can already feel that I am that person, even when I was just starting out and things were picking up, right? So it's about creating and living just like an actor, embodying that new identity.
Yeah.
That, I think, was probably not only the biggest challenge, because then I stopped fixing myself. I was like, I'm done. I dropped the sword kind of thing. I'm not trying to do that anymore.
It's very
So today, I think my biggest challenge is controlling my imagination.
Mm.
And this is a big one, because like you said, we're not always aware, we're not always conscious, we're not always there to catch ourselves. But if we can control our imagination, I think we can really shift ourselves and our life in tremendous ways. When we can start to observe things differently, over time, the things we observe will shift. But it's not going to shift until we shift. So this is the challenge. Yeah.
that
So
was
this is a little of what I'm working on. So I'm maybe having a bit of a more spiritual approach
yeah,
to life these days.
definitely. That's very, very powerful. And I want to share this slok we have in Isha Upanishad, and it resonates with what you said actually. So it starts with I'm gonna recite it in the way it is in Sanskrit, and then I can translate it. So it says, Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So what it is saying is that is complete. This is complete. And if you take completeness out of completeness, completeness remains. If you add completeness to completeness, only completeness remains. So this is how verse that the whole questioning.
Beautiful.
So I also, what you said is such a mind blowing thing, because if you think there's thing you need to fix, there's always going to be things that's going to be needed to be fixed for you to take certain actions. But once you just trust yourself and just keep on doing what scares you, and then put yourself out there, that's a better approach. I also feel.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
Easier as well.
yeah.
Easier on yourself.
Surround yourself.
Yeah. Because at the root of all of this is shame.
Yeah.
Shame is the biggest shadow that a lot of people, from a lot of things in our planet, shame is the shadow that's lingering, that everybody would do anything to not feel.
Yeah.
Because shame is the voice of I'm not good enough, pretty much. And when you look at how parents use shame to
Yeah.
educate or educate or
Yeah.
oblige their kids to do certain things, right, for their own good, or you see how vegan people shame meat eaters for the right thing to do, right, or how the cancer culture is basically shaming those people
Yeah.
for their ideology and their belief, right? But it's okay because it's for the right cause.
Yeah.
And you can see the irony in all of this, and how we perpetuate,
Yeah.
the hidden shame that we have within ourselves in our culture, and how we pass it on and how we justify it because it's the right thing to do.
It's the right thing to do.
That's the right thing to do. But all of this, when you cannot accept other people as they are, it
Mm.
strongly means that you're not accepting who you are.
Exactly.
And shame is probably one of the thing that perpetuates most evil on
Yes.
this planet.
Yes.
And unfortunately, as long as you cannot own your own shame and be okay with it,
Mm.
then it remains there.
Yeah.
The moment you start to be okay with sharing your story, your
Yeah.
insecurities, facing your insecurities, that shame just dissolves, and you just realize, wow, well, there wasn't really anything to be ashamed of to start with.
Exactly.
It's ironic.
Exactly. That can be a very powerful thing. Very powerful thing. Um, just like because that also kind of contributes to like trying to be perfect, and I mean, how can you be perfect in this imperfect world? Just trying everything you do has to be perfect so that then only you'll do things. I mean, you're never going to go anywhere if you have that kind of belief. And I had that, deep in my unconscious, that a part of me didn't want others to feel bad because I would
Mm,
do that. So it's still a work in progress, but I feel so much better, so much
nice.
more aligned to where I'm at right now. And so taking all these actions, just facing my fears and not thinking too much about what others going to say. And yeah, I'm really enjoying this. I'm really enjoying this podcast with you as well.
Nice.
So I'm going to
Nice.
ask you some questions. Okay, this is something
Okay.
I got off the internet. Uh, so okay, so here's one. I think you'll enjoy. If you could have a billboard with anything on it, what would it be and why?
Yeah, wow. If I could have a billboard on it, um, what would I put on it and why?
Yeah.
I think I would just leave it blank. I would leave it blank. I think there's plenty of fucking billboards around. I don't think we need another one. I don't know. I don't know. I think blank is enough.
That's
I think
awesome.
if people can look at it and just be blank and present for a few seconds, I think
Yes,
that's beautiful enough.
that's awesome.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so I would leave it blank and be like, wow, what a relief to not be sold any shit every corner of everywhere you look. You know.
That's mind blowing, man. It's just,
Yeah.
wow. Great. Okay, so this is another one. Uh, okay, let me just check. Is there anything? Is there anything that you wanted to talk about more, which I perhaps didn't ask you about it? Is there anything like that?
I think we had a very good conversation. I think it was really good. I think it could go on
Just go on.
for it could go on and on and on. I think we rounded it up.
Yeah.
I think maybe ultimately maybe the last thing that I would like to mention, if there was anything, it would be to just sit down,
Yeah.
close your eyes,
Mhm.
and just allow yourself to imagine, being the person you want to be,
Wow.
and just spend 5-10 minutes doing that.
Yeah.
Walk there, do that, have that activity, whatever. Use your imagination for something constructive, something that makes you feel happy, fulfilled, good.
Yeah.
And not only it's going to make you feel good,
Yeah.
but also it's one way to reprogram your subconscious mind. And it's probably one of the best habits you can start, to
True.
start imagining already being and living the life you want to have.
Yeah.
And if you just take that advice here and you discard everything else and you just apply that, I think you'll be amazed
Yeah.
by what can do for you.
Yes. Yeah. I completely agree that really transforms our lives for the better. And like
Mm,
you said, once you begin to feel that, even before you see it in the physical world, and in that state of consciousness, it begins to do its own work. Something greater is at work, and I
yeah.
definitely believe that it definitely has happened in my life. And I'm so grateful that I was able to bring you in. And thank you so much for accepting my invite and
Thank you.
allowing for this to happen. And I know this is going to create so much value for everyone who's going to listen to this. Thank you so much once again for being with
Thank you for having me for this conversation. I enjoyed it. I think it was really good. Time, went very, very fast. So I
me.
think and I hope it was valuable for the listeners, for people watching. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Namaste and blessings. And today is the day we celebrate wealth, health, prosperity.
There
Best.
we go.
So you perhaps you're going to have all of that. It's that day, right?
It's
So
that day. Every day is that day.
every day is that day. I love that.